So that was probably around 2000, 2001. I'm sure it was probably before you guys were born, but it's been fairly recently because we've done that. And I just learned this yesterday when I was researching this. What they've done is they know the time it takes for an average mutation to occur. So they look at the differences between different human beings, and they see how much of a variation. It's not much. I mean, we almost have like identical, not identical DNA, but when you compare us to like other animals, you know, we're the next closest thing we have is the chimp. And they look at the percentage difference between people, and they basically just applied the mutation rate to it. And 200,000 years ago, we came from the same mitochondrial Eve. And then they took a look at the difference between our DNA and the chimp, which is something like 98% similar to us, did the same process, and we split from the same common ancestor 5 million years ago, approximately. So I didn't know that we actually know, and I have to go back and get exact numbers for you because I didn't have enough time to research everything, but you know that. But anyways, we're going to talk about the Ice Age animals today. There are two major theories. There are a few others behind what wiped out the things like the woolly mammoth and the woolly rhino, the giant ground sloths, the short-faced bear. What are the two major accepted things that actually work together? Is we're pretty sure what happened. It's not like we can go back in time and watch it. But what do we think? We're pretty sure that wiped these organisms out. Okay, it was the climate change, which I hate because it's such an umbrella term. But the warming up, they couldn't cool off because they were adapted to the cold. But there was one other major thing that was going on at this time that we don't think it was 100% the cause of it, but definitely helped reduce their population. Humans hunting them. Yes, us, or at least our ancestors. We know the Neanderthals didn't make it through. So, there's somebody trying to come in. So yeah, climate change has so many things that goes on with it. I mean, it's going to cause a problem with the change of the habitat. If they can't adapt, they may have starved out. But yeah, it's a combination of a couple different things. Oh, there's Sarah too. All right. Lots and lots and lots of pictures today. Let's freeze everything. We can get going. So, Ice Age megafauna. If you've not realized, mega meaning large and fauna meaning animals, flora means plants. And the largest of all of the mammals were around in the Pleistocene. I showed you the picture of the largest of all of them. I can't remember its name off the top of my head. It started with a P. It was a hornless rhino. Much larger than our current African elephant. And that was the image that we saw. That was, I think, the first day we did this stuff was the day that I showed that. And then after this class, I actually added in a skeleton of it in a museum, and it does show how large some of these creatures got. I mean, that was the largest of them all. The one that I saw in the museum, I didn't even come up to the knee joint. And that's, I know they're up on pedestals, but it was huge. I mean, the weight bone was like this big around. It was huge. So there are some in our country that the largest versions of them died. So we have the modern moose, but the stag moose, its much larger ancestor went extinct. We've got mule deer, which I believe are the largest of the North American deer. I might be mistaken. I forgot to look that up. But its predecessor, the giant deer, which was larger. We'll talk about both of those in a few minutes. They went extinct. Bison are pretty close to what they looked like before, but obviously they were larger during the Pleistocene. Just everything was larger back then. And like I said, that's an adaptation to protect against body heat loss. It's to protect them from the cold. And most of them, we know the dire wolf, and there was a small population of pygmy mammoths that made it past this, but most of them were wiped out somewhere between 10,000 and 11,000 years ago. Somewhere in that area, they did not.
Woolly mammoth?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
No, wait, no. The woolly mammoths were gone. No, a type of mastodon. A pygmy. If I said pygmy mammoth, I meant to say pygmy mastodon. Smaller. They actually were, well, that's one of the first ones we'll do. I'll wait till I get there. People confuse mastodons and mammoths all the time. They were not found in the same area. One was really, really, really hairy and the other one was not. So one was actually better suited to warm areas. It ended up turning into our modern elephant. The mammoths, they're gone. The height of the fourth glaciation, we've done ice ages before, is called the Wisconsin maximum. And we learned about this before. It's been a while. You do need to know that it's named the Wisconsin maximum. It was about 2.5 miles thick. Went as far south as about, I don't have a map of the United States in front of me with the latitude on it, but where New York State is. And higher elevations, it went as far south, like up in the mountains, as the middle of our country. And it really, in our area, was receding and started, the Great Lakes were forming about 14.5 thousand years ago. So 14,500 years ago. Now remember, these started way, way, way earlier. The first glaciation started actually in the Pliocene, 2.8 million years ago. So we had advances and retreats. It follows the obliquity of the Earth. That's the orbit. It alternates between circular and more oval about every 100,000 years. So that's about the cycle of an ice age. For us, we were pretty well uncovered. I mean, I know further north in Canada, I mean, North America includes Canada, it's just not the United States. Obviously, there's more ice up there, but as far as our part's concerned, by the time the Holocene started, they were completely gone. This isn't the boundary between the Pleistocene. We're still in the Pleistocene right now. The Holocene, our age, didn't start till 12,000 years ago. Antarctica and the Arctic ice, they retreated. Yesterday we mentioned that the Arctic ice does so at a more rapid pace because it's over water. Antarctica still has mild melts, but it freezes back more than it melts because that ice is on land. Because Antarctica is a land continent, it's just underneath a whole bunch of ice. And obviously, as the glaciers are melting, the sea levels are rising. And I don't like using the term global warming. We're really supposed to use glaciation and deglaciation. Glaciation is the cold part. Here comes the ice. Deglaciation is the warmer part, and it's going to retreat. But it's basically the same. It's a warming trend. Does not mean that all the ice goes away. Let me check on mine again. I'm missing people. Raylan, Colton, Sarah, and Taylor. I don't see anybody else now. Oh, I can't believe I messed up this paper so bad. It's okay. I'll fix it. All right. Where you find mankind, okay, whether it be Homo sapiens, modern man, or some of the other ones, you're going to have a major decrease with megafauna. The only country, that's not country, Africa's not a country, it's a continent. The only continent that has any megafauna left on it is Africa, but that's because it wasn't anywhere near as affected by the ice. That's also where mankind was evolving at the same time. Megafauna means large animals. Mega, big, fauna, animal. Flora is plant. It's just the scientific term for it. Like I said, large bodies, they actually reduce the surface, not surface tension. Oh my gosh, I need more coffee. Surface area. It reduces how much heat. I mean, obviously things are still sweating. There's still heat that's being exchanged through the skin, but it's less than if it is a smaller animal. So the Neanderthal, which I'm not getting too far into, I can't remember if there's another one on here, there's not. I don't want to get too much into human evolution. We'll talk more about Neanderthals probably on Monday, because I haven't built those yet. their body structure was much different than our direct ancestors. We were alive at the same time. There's evidence that there was interbreeding between the two different species of primitive man. But their general, two major things. The size of the nose was much, much, much wider. So there were more, I don't know if you know what the inside of the nose looks like. There's the folds that are inside the nose that helps filter out the dust, also warms the air. Okay, so they had more of that structure inside their nose. And then the shape of their chest was much more barrel shaped. It was much larger. It wasn't like they were like 3 times our size. It's not that they were giants or anything. They were a little bit larger. But both of those things were to warm the air. Neanderthals were much more adapted to the cold environment than our direct ancestors were. But when it warmed up, our direct ancestors made it through and Neanderthals did not. There were a whole bunch of different types of primitive man that were around at the same time. Doesn't mean that they were necessarily in the same area, but they were on the planet at the same time. Let's see. So the only continent that has natural megafauna, the really big things like hippos and rhinos and elephants and giraffes, that's Africa. The closest thing that we have are bison and moose. Well, no, we do have some bears too, but they're not as big as the bears from the Pleistocene. Africa is also where man developed, and we know this for a fact. We know that, like I said, I learned it yesterday, that we do know for sure that the chimps and all of the ancestors, the human ancestors, all the different types, including the ones that went extinct, they split approximately 5 million years ago. That's the reason why chimps share so much of our DNA. They're the most recent split. The one before that was the gorilla. The one before that was the orangutan. I know the first branch were like the lemurs. And like I said, I haven't built all of this. I'm still going back and re-educating myself about human evolution because it's been over 20 years since I've been taught it. And a lot has changed. A whole lot has changed, actually. But that's just because we have better technology. We have different ways to look at things now. It just weren't around when the textbooks were written that we got to use when we were in college. So this is essentially the answer to the opener. It's a combination of climate change, which I know is a very broad term. Okay, so the warming trend, which changed habitat, which would have most likely, whatever your particular organism ate, there's a good chance that that plant would have gone extinct. This is what would have happened to koalas if eucalyptus went away, or pandas if bamboo went away. That's their diet. If those plants go extinct, those animals are going to go extinct. Let alone pandas are pretty much too dumb to reproduce on their own. If it wasn't for the Chinese, like the panda would be extinct, honestly. And human hunting. And we've got mammoth bones, various bones that have got chips in them from spear points. Some of them have embedded spear points in them. Just like we know that certain dinosaurs hunted other dinosaurs because their bones have specific predator teeth that are embedded in their bone. I don't think I ever brought that up when we did dinosaurs. But we're going to do human evolution, and it should be Monday and Tuesday. The other thing, big mammals carry babies for a very long time. Elephants are something like, I want to say 14 months. Let me check. Let's see. So we're going to do elephant gestation. That's what gestation means, is how long. Elephant gestation. I don't think I just spelled that right. Oh gosh, 22 months. How'd you like to carry a baby for 2 years? All right, so, and that's the African. The Asian is 18 to 22. 4 months is a big swing. Anyways, The larger the animal, the longer they tend to carry their young and the less babies they're going to have. Now you compare that to like a rat, and they're going to have like 8 to a dozen babies. If they have more babies and they have teats, they just sort of eat the extras, which I know is like harsh, but rodents will do that. A lot of rodents will do that. If they have too many babies, yeah, they'll eat the extras. Well, because then they don't have enough to feed them. I know, it's messed up, but they do it.
Yeah, scorpions, when they get hungry, they just take it off their back and eat it.
We're saving the snacks for later.
Oh, gosh. We got into a weird conversation in my seventh period class about how you go back a few hundred years, and every time before that, if a family, a woman had a child that was defective in some way, shape, or form. So like missing legs, or I mean, obviously something wrong with it. They didn't raise it. They sort of threw it out in the woods and let the animals take care of it. And then somebody in my second period, he's a Spanish exchange student, and he goes, well, in Sparta, they just threw him off the cliff. And I was like, oh. Yeah. Awesome. I was like, and that just turned into a very strange conversation. I was like, do not go home and tell your parents that I told you to throw your baby in the woods, because that is not what I am saying.
We need modern medicine and more intelligence.
No, I know, but no, we have changed so much just in 400 years. So do what?
That's how football was made.
What, to put the baby? Okay.
Post-term abortion.
Oh my gosh, y'all. I swear. So, yeah, the mammoth is the best studied of all of the prehistoric megafauna because we've found multiple calves frozen in ice. We know what their hair looked like because it's been preserved. The animals that were smaller or could adapt quicker to become smaller are going to be more likely to make it through, and we're never going to get rid of rodents. It's like we're never going to get rid of cockroaches. They can live for like.
The asteroid didn't get rid of them.
No. So once again, large body size is protection against the cold. Not every single thing was ginormous. Okay, but this is where the largest of them came. Okay, so herbivores get bigger. So now you have more food supply for your predators. So it's always herbivores get larger first. And then as a side effect, as a direct evolutionary effect, their predators are going to become larger. So we didn't just have the largest of our mammalian herbivores, but we had some of the largest of the mammalian carnivores at the time too. I don't know for sure which was larger, the tiger or the American lion. I didn't research that. Yes, there were American lions, there were American cheetahs. Yes, we don't have them anymore.
America was African.
No, they just didn't make it here. Like I said, Africa wasn't affected by these ice ages like our part of the world was. That's why you still have the big cats. And yes, I think tigers are the largest of all of the cats, and I think they're also technically Asian, I think.
What, tigers?
Yes.
Yeah,
they are. Okay, so they're not all specifically from Africa. I've never taught biology. I don't want to teach biology. So, I like learning about animals, but, I'm not an encyclopedia. So let's see here. Do what now? Well, that would be a possibility because the zoos are open. Museums are still closed because I had students that asked, can we just go to the museum and look at all of the bones and stuff? And I was like, no, they're still shut down. So, I don't know. I'm going to find, I think it's supposed to be nice this weekend. I can get enough of my schoolwork done. I might take my kids to the zoo. They have, at the Fort Worth Zoo, they have the Stingray Cove.
Yeah.
Where you can, that's pretty cool.
You do have to.
Yeah, you have to get your tickets.
There's a place.
Yeah.
It's in the mall you can go to. It's like an actual zoo. They have like sharks and stuff in there that you can touch. It's sweet.
Probably nurse sharks then, because they're fairly docile. These giant herbivores were similar to the giant dinosaurs. They were just mammals, not reptiles. And they would basically mow stuff down. So that's things like your mammoths, they didn't just stay in one spot. They would have to migrate to be able to go get food because they'd strip everything bare and then they'd starve. So they're walking around and in the process of eating things, especially if they're seeds, when they poop stuff back out, then they're actually moving plants from point A to point B. Most animals don't, the seeds don't digest, they pass through your system and they come out on the other side. All right, the mastodon, okay. The term that we call it is a mastodon. There's multiple species of it. They're all from what's called mammoth. Okay, so we had an extinction of somewhere between 10 to 11,000 years ago. I'm not going to put extinction time periods on all of these because most of these went extinct at the same time. Approximately the same size as an African elephant. I did not put height and length and weight on most of these because there's just not enough room. So very, very similar to the modern day African bush elephant. Same size. It probably had some hair on it, but it would have been like the African elephant, like not woolly, not hairy like the mammoth. The mammoth was different. These were warm, forest-dwelling herd animals. Very, very, very similar to our modern day elephant, which is, if I'm not mistaken, that's what they turned into. We know the mammoths did not make it through. In fact, let me fact check myself. Oh, I got my handy dandy internet box because, you know, the internet never lies. Not 8. Elephants. I don't want to lie to you. Descendants. Okay, now they share a common ancestor. Let's see, let's try mastodon. O-D-O-N. No, both of them. They shared a common ancestor, but both of these species went through. The elephant was a different branch. I should have probably looked up when that split was, but I didn't do it. I just turned my thing off. All right, the next one, the woolly mammoth. This is the one that you think of from the Ice Age movies. This is the one, it was much larger. This is the one that we know the color of the hair because there's been multiple calves that have been frozen in ice. I think most of them come from Siberia.
Has there been one full grown?
No, not a full carcass. That's why we know more about these than any of the others because the entire baby is encased in ice. But now we've got like the full, like those big, huge tusks. Yes, we have those, but to my knowledge, we haven't found an adult encased in ice. It's just the little ones. 2 coats of hair. There definitely were meant to be in the cold. Would have been herd animals as well. They would have migrated to be able to go with their food. We know more about them just because we have so much of the actual tangible evidence, not just bones. And then, so this population was a pygmy. No, okay, so it was mammoth. It was not mastodon. I said that incorrectly this morning. I don't know where Wrangel Island is. Google that. But they had a pygmy version, small. You look up where that is. Wrangel Islands. I just ran out of time when I was building all this stuff. It's Russia. That makes sense. Okay, so somewhere. Come on, make it bigger so I can look and see. Wrangel Islands is, oh, wow. Okay, so you've got Siberia and you've got Alaska, and there's an island to the north of where the Bering Strait, like the land bridge was, and that's where this population was. So nice and cold. It's nice towards the Arctic Circle. So they actually made it the farthest. The longest predator that made it through was the dire wolf. And it was a little bit shorter than what I thought, but it was really stocky, had more body mass built behind it. Giant ground sloth. This came to us from South America, but it was found in North America. Extremely large. Extremely. Now, you will commonly see these in museums. I know the one in Houston has them. I have not been to the Fort Worth Museum in well over 20 years. So I do not even know what's there. And it's not like I can go and see because the museums are shut down. They had, just like sloths, which are actually sort of cute in an ugly way, they have these really long claws on all feet. So it actually walked on the sides of its feet like this because the claws were in the way. Very, very similar to a modern.
It sounds miserable.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that they were used to it. I don't know. I'm sure that they weren't like the smartest of things. Most herbivores are pretty dumb. The carnivores are the ones that tend to be smarter. But it was the size of an elephant. At least it was an herbivore. We're doing all the herbivores that I was going to first. The giant beaver. Okay, beavers are big to begin with. Okay, they're like 60 pounds. Okay, normal beavers are, if you've never seen one, they can be as long as this table. Okay, they're just not necessarily high off the ground. That's including their tail. That's not just their body. The giant beaver would stand almost as tall as a man if it went up on its back feet. Very similar to the modern beaver, just bigger, but 300 pounds. So largest of all of the rodents. And it would have probably done dams. I know that the tail wasn't exactly the same as the modern day beaver, but it was an aquatic mammal. So 2.5 meters long is about 7 to 8 feet. Maybe a little bit more than that. And I guarantee that humans would have hunted these things too. That just sort of puts the comparison side by side with them. All right, the mountain deer and the stag moose. I'm going to do these together. The deer were just bigger. Okay, they weren't like as tall as the room, kind of bigger, but most deer do not get to 600 pounds. The average mule deer, so I'm going to put this in, I should know this considering that I just had deer backstrap the other day. All right, so, oh, it was tasty. Mule deer weight. Or maybe I should do the white-tailed. So male can get up to 330 pounds, so about twice the size of a mule deer. The stag moose, on the other hand, let me see how big they got. So I didn't put that up here. Like I said, I'm not. So, okay, so the male is 1,500 pounds. Let's look at the regular moose. About the same size, just a little bit less. The picture that I have right here is a stag moose. The major difference between them, between a modern moose and a stag moose, besides the size, the antlers were much different. With the modern moose, they're almost like fan-like, and then the prongs are just on the tips. And with the stag moose, it's more of like an antler type, like a deer antler type antler.
Looks like a caribou antlers.
Sort of. The face was more deer-like. If you do not know, I mean, I could probably walk underneath the belly of a moose and not touch its belly with my head. And I know I'm short, but moose are ginormous. That's what makes them so dangerous. If you hit one, is you break the legs and then the body comes straight through your windshield. So at least we don't have them here. We have little deer, little like dog-sized deer around here.
To, like North and South Dakota, where they just feed corn. White-tail can get up to like 2 or 3 pounds.
They can. They can. They're not too bad. If you go up towards like Oklahoma, they get a little bit bigger up there. But around here, they're just small. They're not huge. We had camels. They were bigger than the modern camel. They're ironically called yesterday's camel. That's what they're. I'm sure they have a scientific name, but I didn't look it up. They did originate with llamas in our country. We don't have them naturally in North America. The llamas went south across the land bridge, and the camels went with the horses across the Bering Strait land bridge and went over to where modern day Iraq and everything is. You find them in the deserts of the Middle East. I'm sure there's some that are down towards Africa as well, but we don't have them naturally here. They have to be in a zoo, or they have to be somebody's pet. They're normally fairly mean. There are different types of camels. I'm not going to go into the dromedaries and all that, but they still originated in North America. And the horses went along with them over into Eurasia, over that land bridge between Siberia and Alaska.
On one of these questions, says which of the following migrated to Eurasia via the Grand Strait, and it has elephants, horses, and camels, or
Mhm.
all of these.
It's all of them. It's all of them.
Doesn't
Yep. Oh, I didn't animate that. Oops. All right, so the giant short-faced bear. This puts it in perspective. The grizzly is a little bit smaller than the polar. They're actually interbreeding with each other right now, which is weird. I don't know if the growlers are fertile. Most of the time when you have a hybrid, they can't reproduce. The short-faced bear was larger. It's called the short-faced bear because its snout was almost pug-like. It's smooshed. But all of the teeth that were inside its mouth were modern bear teeth. So you had although the short-faced bear did not eat plants, okay? The polar bear is completely carnivorous, just like the short-faced bear was, but the grizzly bear and then the black bear, the smaller one that we have in this country, they will eat both meat and plants. That's one of the reasons why the short-faced bear went extinct. I don't know how the polar bear didn't, but the omnivorous bears, they made it through. The short-faced bear did not make it through. When that thing stood up, it'd be over 12 feet tall on its hind legs. Most bears can stand up on their hind legs. The bear, excluding the polar bear because it's carnivorous, is the only other omnivorous animal with stereoscopic eyes that point forward like us. That's it. All the other ones, the eyes are more towards the side of the head. That is a herbivore trait, to be able to see more around them to look out for predators. Ursine bears, that is redundant. Ursine means bear.
Yeah,
I'll
I was
fix
gonna
that.
ask about
That's
that.
redundant, yeah.
But I was like,
No. It's Ursa means bear. I'll fix it. I just wasn't paying attention. This would have been a major predator of human beings. That its back would have been probably above my head. I'll look up its height too. Like I said, I didn't have enough time to do all the specs on these things at all. Short-faced bear. Height. Yeah, I know how tall it was when it stood up, but what about when it was on all four? These bears were nearly 1.5 meters high when walking normally, so that's no, it's not. 1.5 meters, 2 feet. So 1.64 yards, there's 3 feet in a yard, so let's change it to feet. 5 feet. Okay, so it was as tall as me. I'm just over 5 feet tall. So saber-tooth and scimitar-tooth cat. Okay, their cat is in their name, but they're not felines. They're classified as creodonts. The primitive versions of our modern carnivores. The saber-tooth did not go further south than the Canadian border. Okay, if you find them further south than that, then it's one of the other cat species that are not really cats. The scimitar would have gone further south. What you think of is the Smilodon. This is Smilodon fatalis. Yeah, you can go to the bathroom. I have to. It's on here somewhere. Smilodon. What is that last word? Populator. Okay, the one that normally, let me move that back out of the way. That's the big one. That's the one that the Ice Age movie based their saber-tooth off of. Okay, but the one that was more common was Smilodon fatalis. That's the one that almost looks like it's got like hyena modeling like spots on it. And then you have the scimitar tooth. which is this little one, almost looks more like a bobcat. And that's the one that was more popular or more common down in North America. There were other not really cat, credon species that were going on as well. Like I said, there was the American cheetah, the American lion.
So what's the biggest one?
The one on the left that they based Diego off of, that's Smilodon, what did I say it was? Popularis. And then this is Smilodon fatalis. That's the one that we find so many of in the La Brea tar pits. That's near LA. We found all different kinds of very well preserved things. I didn't embed the La Brea tar pits anywhere into any of my notes. All right, the dire wolf. Okay, these were about 25% larger than the largest current wolf, which is, it's called the timber wolf and it's also called the gray wolf. They're the same thing. Not necessarily height-wise difference, but sheer body mass. It was way, way stockier. But as far as height, they're about, I don't know, about waist height, which is a pretty big dang wolf. It's not, like I said, not everything was huge. This is the wolf that R.R. Martin based his dire wolves off of in the Game of Thrones stuff, but his were bigger. But that's what he based it off of. The dire wolf made it further than any of the other credons, any of the other carnivorous, prehistoric, Pleistocene, Ice Age carnivores. But like I said, this is almost exactly the same as the timber wolf. Gray wolf, same thing. Lupine is scientific for wolf. Canis lupus is the scientific name for the wolf. Canis familiaris or domesticus. I've seen both of them as your normal dog. And we domesticated not the dire wolf, but that's where our dogs came from. All right, the American lion and the cheetah. They, obviously Africa has lions and has cheetahs and has leopards and has the largest of the true cat, the feline species. But the largest of all of them here was the American lion. I should have the picture. Okay, so the American lion, which would have looked similar to, now obviously we don't have any fur, so we're basing this off of the African lion. There are different types of African lions for that matter. We had the American scimitar, which was smaller. This is Smilodon fatalis. We had jaguars, we had cheetahs, and we still have the mountain lion. That's the large, or puma, mountain lion. What else are they called? They have another name. That's, I'm having an old person doing it. Mountain lion and, I don't know. I know there's a third name for it, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But these would have been our large cats. Like I said, not the size of the room, kind of tall. But the only one of these that we do still have is this one on the end. And they're pretty impressive. I know there's like a Russian that has one as a, I guess, a pet. Can't remember his name. It's all over the internet. But it's like, it's stunted. So they can't release it into the wild. It would be killed. It's the size of a female, not a male. He keeps it in his house or his apartment. There's some dude in Russia that I can't remember the name of it. Hold on. It's all over the internet. I'll look it up. In Russia. I think it starts with an M. Messi. MESSI. Cougar. That's the other name for it. I knew there was a third name. But yes, the American lion, which is extinct, is the largest that we used to have here. Last one we're going to do, giant condor and terror birds. Now, terror birds we know are gone. Okay, they went extinct. They were the large mammalian predators took over, but we did have a giant condor. This shows you, so the regular condor is huge. Its wingspan is something like 6 feet. I'm gonna lie to you. Oh my gosh, 10.5 feet for the American condor. So the wingspan then of the giant condor, which is extinct, about double that. This is telling me the Andean condor. I want the giant condor. It's not gonna tell me. Come on, internet. Internet told me yesterday too, and I looked something up in chemistry. But it was about twice the size of the current condor. Condors are huge. Just take a vulture and double it, because we have turkey vultures around here. And that's a condor. Condors actually were almost like right there on the brink of extinction. And we have actually done a huge effort to try to help them come back. I'm not sure where they are in the realm of if they're almost extinct or if they're out of extinction. Some animals we've been able to bring out. But I believe that is the last one. Yes, that is the last one. Let me pause this and go over. How about I turn the light on? So, like I said, we're going to have a couple days for humans. I just haven't built those yet. I'm pulling information and I'm finding out all different kinds of stuff that I find unbelievably interesting.